I'm calling this meeting to order. Good evening. Welcome to the June 17, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Please note this meeting has been attended by Planning Commission and applicants both via teleconference and in person. We thank you for your patience as we navigate city business through this new meeting process. For the benefit of the public and as required by the Brown Act, all voting will be by roll call. Okay. Before we begin, I will ask Commissioner Fermenta if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A little bit of delay.
An echo.
Okay, can we have roll call?
Commissioner Dominguez is absent. Commissioner Owens?
Present.
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Present.
Vice Chair Fermetta?
Present.
And Chair Duarte.
Present. Okay. Now's the time for any planning commissioner announcements, requests for future agenda items and conference meeting reports. Commissioner Owens?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Spatos?
None, thank you.
Vice Chair Fermetta?
None.
And I don't have any announcements at this time. So now it's for presentations. Community Development Director, Mr. Schindler, do we have any presentations scheduled tonight?
Thank you, Chairman Duarte. We do have a presentation scheduled for tonight. And as Julie makes her way to the podium, I want to give you just a brief background. So 3 years ago, we concluded a comprehensive parking study of our downtown. What we wanted to see is what level we were at in terms of parking availability, or if we were going to meet any thresholds of surpassing the amount of available parking we have in our downtown. As the commission knows, we have a few public parking lots. We have a good amount of on-street parking, and we've seen new development in our downtown. And so, as you also know, parking is a vital component of any downtown and of any development. And so we wanted to take a deep dive to make sure that we had the inventory and where that inventory was and how it was being used. So Julie Dixon and her group completed that comprehensive study, and we presented it to the Planning Commission back then and also the council. One of the recommendations from Dixon's team was to do an annual assessment of our parking downtown, and to do that over the next 5 years. So last year we concluded our first one, and that presentation was made to the Planning Commission as well. And this year we're into our second assessment, and so we have 3 more ahead of us. And so tonight Julie's going to present her findings of the second year assessment. And Julie?
Yes, thank you. Happy to be here in person as well. This is my first public meeting in a few months, not online. And I think we have the presentation as it comes up on the screen. Do I need to touch the button yet, or is it just go ahead? Oh, thank you. How perfect. So as the director mentioned, this is basically the second year of the data collection. I do want to highlight for those of you who were involved previously when we did the parking study, we also collected data in 2015. So we really have a great baseline. I think one of the important things to really share here too is that when we talk about the growth and development for Downey, is that the one thing that you have, and for those of you who've heard me speak before, I can't highlight enough that you have that gem of a parking garage. And that is something that many a community like yours wishes that they had. And I'm excited to really reinforce the fact that you have that resource, because when we talk about growth and availability, you do currently have parking assets to really accommodate that growth and availability. So when we actually do the parking counts, we actually do what's called utilization data, where we actually capture the license plate, so that not only are we capturing how many vehicles are parked, but we're also trying to capture how long they parked as well. And so that's going to be really relevant as we talk about the information moving forward. And I know that the map's a little bit small, but you can basically see from the highlighted areas, we're actually capturing the data for the on-street and for the off-street, including the garage facility. And when we go out and do the data collection, we actually capture the data during 4 times. And in this particular year, based on last year's feedback from this commission, we actually added an additional observation period for 8:30 at night. And that was really important because we capture data on a weekday and we also collect data on a weekend. So we really wanted to see what the evening or nightlife impacts were for parking occupancy. We have now consistently done the data collection in September, and the anticipation will to continue to do that same data collection in the fall so that we can return back and share those comparisons. It's really important, and I know that this is probably regurgitating information you already know, but I like to share the 85% rule, is that basically the industry standard is that when you hit 85% occupancy consistently, you're really near or at capacity. And that's when you need to start making parking management decisions. That could be things that could be about changing time limits. It could be the potential of implementing paid parking. There's several factors that can come into that when we talk about those impacts. But when we go through the data, you'll notice why I said consistently 85%, because when you have anomalies, the one-offs, like when the farmer's market happens, those are things that are justified by the special event, and we need to look at other means of how we manage those impacts. So again, that data collection that we did the previous year, and then we also collected data when we started the parking study back in 2015. Now again, I know that the screen is probably a little bit small, but what I really want to highlight are those boxes that are highlighted there with the little squares around them, is that for your on-street occupancy, basically by time of day, you can see that we're not nearing that 85% measure yet. And I say yet because I'm excited about, turning on and recovery from COVID and, what's going to come next. But what you can really see here is that there still is ample parking. I want to highlight the fact that one of the things that we have learned over time is that people want to park right in front of their destination, and oftentimes they might circle the block because they want to park in that premium parking space. And I think one of the things that the numbers reinforce is that we have some very popular venues at lunchtime in particular, where you know that especially on 2nd and on that 11,100 block of Downey Ave, those are very premium parking spaces. And I don't think that that's ever going to change unless maybe Porto's tends to close down because they all won the lottery or something like that. So in this particular case, again, you can see that there is ample occupancy, especially as you look through the trends, and that the highest point we have is 78%, and again, it is during that lunch hour. And so when we start to look at this information, when you combine that with the turnover rates, now this is something that could be one of those parking management decisions when we get there. Currently, you can see that for that first category, where compared to today versus previously, right now, 78% of the folks that are parking are basically parking less than 3 hours. And that number has really remained consistent as we talk about that information over time, is that we really do have folks staying really within the time limits as they're posted. Now, you can see that there are people that are tending to stay in some of the spaces for longer, and those are things that can really be managed through consistent compliance. And I like to say compliance because we want people to follow the rules, right? But really, when you look at it, it really does demonstrate that you have effective policies today, and you also have effective enforcement today as well, with that balanced approach that you see that the numbers really are trending towards your posted regulations. And then looking at the off-street occupancy, again, consistent with on-street, you can see that the demand really is there during the lunch hours. And you can also see that on the weekdays for the 8:30 p.m. time slot, where you can really start to see again maybe for the dinner hour where that popularity really is there. But I really have to reemphasize again that you are well below the 85% mark. And again, these are good trends because the numbers again are really remaining there. There's slight growth, but this is demonstrative of a healthy and vibrant community. And I want to highlight this was taken pre-COVID, and we all understand what the impacts of COVID are at this particular time. But the one thing I also have to emphasize too is that, consistent with previous years, the farmers market does have impacts, and we know that that impact really tends to go away right after about the noon hour, and that the narrow lot is really one of the most impacted. And we've talked about things that we can do to encourage the merchants that participate in the farmers market where they can park, and just really collaborating with the farmers market organizers to make sure that people are parking where we want them to park. But that density on the right side, and that should actually say weekend, where it's at 95%, again, that is really when the farmers market is really hitting the mark and where we have that peak occupancy. And now on the turnover rates, again, the numbers are really fairly consistent. And again, you can see that folks are really staying for less than 3 hours. And this is something that oftentimes we get asked, well, why do we have time limits, right? In a community like yours, time limits are intended to encourage turnover. We want people to come and park, go spend their money, conduct their business, and then get in their car and move so that somebody else can park there. If you want to stay all day, go park in one of the surface lots that maybe have extended time limits, but honestly, go park in the garage. Because the one thing we really want to reinforce to people is that parking is free in the garage, and we have a very walkable downtown. And those are the things that, through safety measures, lighting, and encouraging safe passage, we really want to take advantage of wayfinding to encourage our long-term visitors to park in those particular locations. So, in conclusion for this brief presentation is to highlight that you're really on track, you're still below those thresholds, and as we talk about some of the impacts of post-COVID, COVID recovery, there's things that you may want to consider or may be considering when it comes to potentially having, they call them streeteries or parklets, or if you talk about road closures, things like that that may be on the topic. But the fact is that you have the off-street availability today to encourage that. One of the other factors I'll just bring up today too to reinforce is that during the quarantine and the shelter in place, a lot of agencies basically lightened their enforcement, or in some cases didn't enforce at all. So there sometimes has to be some proactive messaging to let folks know, hey, we're back on, and we need to follow the rules, doing some warning notices and reminders like that. But overall, the Downey is really on track and is prepared and ready for that growth and dynamic nature. And really, moving forward, I was excited to comment to the director, the insert of the rideshare pickup and drop-off zone. Those are really exciting things for a parking geek like me, because those are progressive moves to really demonstrate that you're really trying to accommodate all means of transportation as well. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Commissioner Owens, do you have any questions?
I have none. Thank you, Ms. Dixon.
Commissioner Spatos?
None, thank you.
Vice Chair Fermenta?
Thank you for the presentation. I have no questions.
And, just one thing, I think you mentioned the streeteries. Our downtown, if that was to happen, we'd still be well under the 85%.
Absolutely, and in fact, before coming to today's meeting, I took the opportunity just to refamiliarize myself with the community, and right now you're ample space and also a lot of the surrounding surface lots. The one thing I will highlight, and I was excited because I was pestering the director with some of the things that I had seen out there today, is when you are considering streeteries or parklets, obviously your traffic engineer and planners have this under control, but I will highlight that the nacdo.org website has some very tremendous resources because so many agencies have had to take action. The real key is safety barriers, is that you just have to be sure that you have the appropriate safety barriers, because if you are going to put seats or people into the roadway, you just want to make sure that you have, those factors there. And because of some of your bump outs, I think you have some tremendous opportunity. I'm not a traffic engineer, but just by design and aesthetic, I think you really can make it work. But the street barriers are the biggest concern, but you absolutely have adequate parking for that accommodation.
And in terms of the compliance, for now, everything is opening up. That's ticketing, right?
ticketing, writing parking tickets. I like to say it in a very politically correct way, so.
Just want to make sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and good luck tonight.
Thank you. Does the Community Development Director, Mr. Schindler, is there any reports on city council action?
Yes, one related report in regards to what we were just talking about. The city has unveiled 2 COVID-19 support programs for our community. For our business community, we unveiled a temporary outdoor dining program, which allows our restaurants to use the space outside of their buildings to establish outdoor dining. And so we're working with our Public Works Department and other departments to expedite any encroachment permits that are required. We're getting as creative as we can also to allow that outdoor dining space on whatever side of the building that the restaurants can make work. Of course, we need to adhere to any ADA clearance requirements. And as mentioned, we are also allowing just in our downtown for the parklets to occur on the on-street parking. And so as was mentioned, there's a natural bulb out on the northeast and northwest corners of Downey and 2nd. And that's where you have your little concentration of restaurants. So on the west side, you have Bastards, the Chinese restaurant, and then Lock and Key. So, ideally, if something was to work, you could do something that was that width that would accommodate those 3 restaurants. And then across the street, you also have, but right now you just have Mambo Grill that's actually operating, and they're undergoing some construction as well, so there's not a lot of opportunity there. Most importantly is we wanted to provide that opportunity to our businesses that wanted to take advantage of it. And then on the residential side, we also unleashed a rent payment program for folks that are suffering through any sort of economic distress that is COVID-19 related. The program launched this morning, and just today we received over 200 calls of individuals that are interested in the program. It is income eligible based, and those income guidelines are set by the state of California, and another component of the program will require federal income guidelines as well. So we're currently collecting intake sheets, and we hope to serve over 300 people and pay a month of their rent. And that concludes my updates.
Thank you. Now is the time for a public hearing on item number 1, PLN-20-0026. Director Schindler, can you introduce the staff person presenting this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair Duarte. Tonight we have Irving Anaya, our Associate Planner, to provide the presentation.
Hello, good evening, Honorable Chair, Commissioners, and members of the audience. The item before you is a request for a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a full-body massage establishment at 8847 Imperial Highway, Suite H, within a 2,000 square foot tenant space. The subject site is located at the northwest corner of Lakewood Boulevard and Imperial Highway. The site is currently improved with 2 multi-tenant commercial buildings, as you can see on the aerial there. The applicant is proposing to locate within Suite H, as mentioned, and as shown in red on the aerial image. The subject site is in the C2 General Commercial Zone, which conditionally allows massage therapy establishments with the approval of a conditional use permit. Just a little background information. At this time, the applicant does operate a foot massage establishment located in Suite I, which is immediately adjacent to the new tenant space, Suite H. This current foot massage establishment was approved by the Plan Commission in September of 2016. With regards to on-site parking, the site is improved with a total of 123 parking spaces. In order to accommodate parking for all existing uses and the proposed use, a total of 110 spaces are required. Therefore, sufficient amount of parking is provided with a surplus of 13 spaces. With regards to the floor plan, the applicant is proposing 7 massage rooms, 4 foot massage chairs towards the front, a reception area, a laundry room, restrooms, and an employee break room. And then on February 27th, we held a design review committee meeting where the police department did provide some comments, requesting that some of these following items be addressed for the proposed use, and those are requiring proper licenses and/or permits to be obtained prior to the operation, and of course, curtains shall be installed for each massage room entrance. Along with all other departments, they provided pretty much standard comments. Conditions were included in the resolution before you to address any of the police department concerns and any other associated departments and agencies. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Owens, do you have any questions?
I do. It's a technicality probably at best, but my agenda page speaks to just the applicant, and it leads me to believe that this item was going to be Panda Foot, but the staff report is addressing full body massage by the applicant, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Like I mentioned, he's currently operating a foot massage next door, and it is named Panda Foot Massage. And based on the application, I believe he's maintaining that name for this full operational or full body massage.
So potentially it may be called Panda Full Body Massage next to Panda Foot Massage, however titled.
I believe that's a question for the applicant to answer.
All right. Thank you. No other questions.
Commissioner Spatos?
I do have a question. Just going off of what Commissioner Owens asked, is the Panda Foot massage that's currently in operation going to stay in operation, or is he moving everything completely over to this new full body massage establishment?
He's proposing to move over to the next location and vacating from Suite I.
So that Panda Foot Spa will close and they will move next door?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Fermetta, do you have any questions?
My questions were very similar to Commissioner Owens and Spatos. So the only thing, it'll be moving over to the next suite and moving the sign over.
Yes. Now, in terms of the sign, that would be addressed or deferred as a separate sign permit application. So obviously the sign should be removed from the current location and moved over. So yeah, he, as part of one of the conditions of approval, he is required to obtain a sign permit and be in compliance with the sign program there for the establishment or for the entire commercial site.
Okay. So sign's not part of this, that's totally separate.
Yeah, that would be approved.
Okay. One question for me is that this current applicant had a CUP in 2016. Has there been any issues with their CUP from then to presently?
Well, after discussing this with the police department, we haven't received any calls of service. We don't have any code enforcement cases open on the property, or at least at this location. So no, it should still be standing in compliance.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think Jimmy had a question.
Jimmy, do you have a question? I'm sorry.
I do have a question. I saw that we had a letter from a neighbor, and my question to the presenter today is: was anything taken into consideration with this particular CUP, considering that it's very near residential property? I know we had another one on the table not too long ago. I think it was on the corner of Firestone and Woodruff. That is a primarily commercial zone. Were these two taken with similar restrictions and guidelines as far as the conditional use permit is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, these conditions that were placed on this resolution is very similar to the previous approval over on 9422 Firestone. we believe that the conditions that were placed, the hours of operation, should be pretty much consistent with other establishments that we've approved. I did measure the proximity of residential uses, and it's approximately 130 feet from this establishment. So it appears that there should be plenty of a buffer.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. If I may add in also, when reviewing it, we did take a look at the hours of operation. They're the same hours that were approved where they're currently located. Because they've had no issues, no calls for service, no reason for concern, we didn't have any reason to reduce their current hours of operation. Additionally, we looked at the last 5 massage establishment approvals, and of those 5, 3 of them were approved to operate until 10 p.m.
Can I ask, the other 2 establishments were approved till what time? And the reason that they were approved at that time, do we know?
The other 2 were approved until 9 p.m. Those applications were approved in 2015 and 2016. I believe, looking at the staff report, those were just the hours that were requested by the applicant.
If I could interrupt real quick, in the conditions of approval portion of this agenda item, it speaks to 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we're saying it's 9 to 9?
I apologize. The 9 o'clock was in reference to 2 other locations that were approved in 2015 and 2016. The current proposal is for 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is the current hours of operation at their current location.
And the other 2 that were approved for the other range of hours, they were full body as well?
They were also full body.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to address the commission. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission regarding the public hearing for item PLN-20-0026 only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. For those present in this City Council chambers, your comments will be taken after phone and email comments are provided. I will now open the public hearing and I'll be inviting the applicant to address the commission. And can you just say your name and address for the record? Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. I'm helping him to translate because he has limited English.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just say your name for the record.
This is Ange and Ange Huang, and his name is Yu Changdai.
Okay, and what does he want to tell us about his application?
Sorry.
What does he want to tell us about his application?
OK， 他问你有什么想说，就是你开这个马
本身我是这个做脚店已经开了3年了，然后有客人反映，他们就是经常要肩、颈脖子、背要疼，干活时间长了疼了，他们希望我是否帮他做身体按摩，所以说我想开这个店。
Okay, he originally opened a foot massage shop, but a lot of clients taught him like because of the long business hour or whatever, they have the neck issue and lower back hurts. So they expect the business owner, which is Mr. Dai, to open a shop including a full body massage. That's why he want to move to a close location so people still can remember
his shop, but he can also have a different type of the massage.
Thank you. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Owens?
I have none, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Commissioner Espatos?
I have one question, if it can be translated for me, for the applicant, is what does he know or is he aware of percentage of the business that's after 9 p.m.?
Okay, he said that after 9, it's like sometimes like 6 or 7 people will show up.
Oh, wow. So after 9 p.m., he usually has 6 or 7 people?
That's what he said.他说9点以后还有6、7个人，他就表示一下。He confirmed that.
Wow. So another question, if you can translate for the applicant, is he aware there's a concern of some of the neighbors there as far as hours of operation when it comes to traffic or noise or whatever the case may be? You know, it seems that there are some residents that are close there. Does he have a concern with that, with his business, if he's open till 10 o'clock?
He say he don't have the concern because right now he open at 10 o'clock and he barely hear people like complain about that, so he just wondering like he just don't have the concern of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mostly a concern. I don't think it's a complaint. I think it's just a concern of residents at that time. Because from what he's saying, if he has 6 or 7 people from 9 to 10, he's got a full house for an hour. So it might be pretty busy for that last hour if he's telling me, you know, he's got 6 or 7 clients. There's 7, it looks like there's 7 private massage rooms and 4 chairs. So he's gonna be, you know, practically 70 to 80% capacity. So it doesn't seem like he's too concerned.
Okay. 他说因为他这个事情不是担不担心，他说是有居民跟他反映说他这个副马杀局，他说他就有人跟他抱怨说你这副马杀局非常吵，所以他才会有这个问题跟你说。他说如果你说9点以后有6个人的话，那说明你这个马杀局店都满满的人在那边，所以他才会有这样的。
那我们做脚店的怎么会晚上有吵呢？
可能是车子吧，可能就是那个来的这个 traffic。
对，你就说我们10点就关门了，客人来，如果9点多了，我们就做半小时，我们10点一定要关门的。
Sure, ma'am, one moment. So, Commissioner Spathos, I just wanted to be clear. Staff hasn't received any complaints from residents, so we're not sure if the commissioners, specifically yourself, have received complaints from residents. We only have one inquiry from the neighboring business, which is Conroy's Flowers, and that's the email that you folks have. And that's pretty clear in terms of what their request is. So we're just, I guess, a little unclear as to where you're hearing all these complaints from residents.
So I didn't mention complaint. I said there was a concern of nearby, whatever it be, residents, businesses, of activity from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. So there was a request that said that maybe we should consider making this hour-wise 9 to 9 p.m. So it's on an email that we received here.
Yes,
along with
and to be clear,
So
that's
I didn't mention complaint, but it is a concern of somebody, whether they're in the center or a resident.
I believe it's from a neighboring business, Conroy Flowers, and not the residential properties that are adjacent to it, just to be clear.
Irregardless, it's a concern of someone. So I wanted to know what his take was on it.
Sure.
So it sounds like he doesn't have much concern.
I'm sorry, we did interrupt that last response. If you could please provide that response, ma'am.
Do you want me to translate the conversation between?
No, I interrupted you when you were going to reply to that last question. If you could provide that response, please.
Okay. He just say that because he think originally he have that 10 to 10 hour, it doesn't have the issue, so he just kind of like repeat the state he just have because he don't have the complaint. He just wondering why this will cause the issue because he said the foot massage, just the massage, it's not like restaurant people drinking or eating over there, so he just wondering, I guess.
Okay, so he's not concerned with it as far as traffic or noise or anything else?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Commissioner Spatos?
None, that's all, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Fermetta?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have none. Thank you. Secretary Kavanaugh, may I have the first speaker on the phone?
There are no calls holding, Chair.
Okay, do we have any written public comment on item PLN-200026?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Staff received one email correspondence from James and Ron Chris regarding Panda Foot Massage.
Can we read that into the record?
Yes, thank you. The email reads regarding planning foot from John and Ron Chris regarding Panda Foot Massage CUP PLN 200026. Planning Commission, to the Planning Commission of Downey, we are not against such a business coming into the area, but please hear us out. We have some experience with such things in another city from the past. It is my understanding that most regular salons, in addition to cutting nails, hair, etc., also do foot massages. Their regular hours do not exceed regular business hours, which in our opinions would be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the latest. If the If the hours run later than 9 p.m., it is not a foot massage business, but more like a massage parlor, which should require cameras showing people going in and out for security issues, and the cameras should also point towards our property. The same, since such businesses do overflow into the neighboring businesses, which could result in variable behavior issues. We do not know if such businesses are allowed into the city of Downey. However, we are not against a foot massage business and wish them all the best. Best regards, Jim and Ron Chris. And that is all we have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now invite those present in the council chambers to speak at the podium. Do we have anyone who wants to speak in favor or against the applicant? Okay. We will now close the public hearing. We can now begin deliberation, and Commissioner Spatos, you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. I think that the applicant has shown a good history. He's been there for a while. It looks like he hasn't had major issues with police or code enforcement. Obviously, there was a concern from an adjoining property owner, and it looks like this is a separate property with a business currently a flower shop that I know personally has been there for a long time. I would have been more concerned if they would have shown up today to show, specific concerns of this particular establishment going in. But I think they've shown that they've operated a business there. They've done a good job. My concern was neighbors or other businesses having issues with it there. But if they don't, I think it's not that big of an issue.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Owens?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So, I think staff reported that the other two, that sort of created the model for this one, were hours of operation 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So this request has come in, asking for, a 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I apologize. I just wanted to correct what we relayed is that we assessed the last 5 massage establishments that were approved. Of those 5, 3 were approved to close at 10 p.m. and 2 were approved to close at 9 p.m.
Okay. So that changes my thinking. I wanted to stay, consistent. It looks like in this case the majority of the 5 are the 10 A to 10 P. And this one would be number 6. The request is modeled after that majority. So I'm okay. I would echo the comments of Commissioner Spathos that they've established themselves in this commercial suite setting, performed as expected, as with the prior business. So my expectation would be that this request tonight will not vary from how they've been. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. Fermetta?
I see nothing out of the norm on their request compared to any of the other massage parlors or establishments. Sounds like they've been perfectly fine business establishment, and I wish them the best.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. Their existing CUP, there's been no code enforcement calls or any calls to the police.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they have been a business in good standing. And with that, do we have a motion?
A motion?
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second.
Yes.
Motion to approve, yes. Sorry.
Was the second by Commissioner Owens?
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Secretary, may you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Dominguez is absent. Commissioner Owens?
Approved.
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Approve.
Vice Chair Fermetta?
Approved.
And Chair Duarte?
Approved.
Okay, the motion passes with 4 in favor and Commissioner Dominguez absent to approve PLN 20-00026, conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, now we're moving on to non-agenda public comments. Before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of a meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to address the commission on issues that are within the commission's jurisdiction. Members of the public wishing to address the planning commission regarding non-agenda public comments only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who have submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. For those present in the council chambers, your comments will be taken after phone and email comments are provided. Madam Secretary, may I have the first speaker on the phone?
Chair, there are no calls holding for public comments, nor do we have any further emails.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the in the council chambers? I don't see anyone. Okay. We will now close the non-agenda public comments. Moving on to the consent calendar. So before we begin the consent calendar comment period, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city meetings rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to address the council on consent calendar items. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission regarding consent calendar items only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who have submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record. No further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. For those present in the council chambers, your comments will be taken after phone and email comments are provided. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody on the phone?
Thank you, Chair Duarte. There are no calls for public comments.
Do we have any written public comment on consent calendar items to be read?
No, no emails or written correspondence regarding public comments.
Okay, we will now invite those in chambers to speak at the podium. Seeing no one, we will now close the consent calendar public comments.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve item 3 and item 4 in the public comments, and not item 5. Hold that as a separate motion. I'd have to recuse myself from item 5. I was not in attendance, but I'll motion to 3 and 4 to approve.
So I think the easiest way to do this is a motion to approve 3, 4, and 5 with Commissioner Owens abstaining from item number 5.
I don't think we have quorum for 5.
You don't?
No.
Pardon me. We'll just continue then item 5. Is
Okay.
that right?
Yes.
So 3 and 4 would be the motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Owens. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Espatos. Madam Secretary, can you please take roll call? Vote.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Dominguez is absent. Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fermetta?
Aye.
And Chair Duarte?
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 in favor and 1 absent to approve items 3 and 4 of the consent calendar and to continue item number 5, approval of the minutes from March 4th, 2020 to the next Planning Commission hearing.
Thank you. Now it's on to other business. I see none. Staff member comments? Director Schinner, do you have any staff comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair Duarte. I believe most of the commissioners are aware. City Hall has been open for business since June 1st, and of course, following all the proper COVID-19 protocols as dictated by the LA County Public Health Department. We have seen a slow but steady stream of people coming back into City Hall seeking information from our planning counter and submitting permits and requesting building inspections from our building counter as well. Our code enforcement team has been active throughout the pandemic, and also people are now able to come in to speak to them in person. So please spread the word, as we have on social media, that we are now open for business in person, and we want to help folks get back into business. And that's it.
All right, thank you. And then I just want to ask any commissioner if they have any items they want to bring up for future agenda. Commissioner Owens?
None, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Spatos?
I do have a question. Maybe Aldo can answer it for me. You did mention something about code enforcement, City Hall being open. There was yesterday driving up Firestone and Downey Avenue. I've seen this on occasion also, never brought it up here at a Planning Commission meeting, but there was a pop-up shop near the corner of Downey Avenue and Firestone, approximately 6:30 p.m. So I don't know if code enforcement is out that late. So that's one concern, is how are we addressing potential after hours, pop-up shops, whether this particular one was somebody was selling honey out of the back of his van or something to that effect. Do we have code enforcement out to address these situations so it doesn't get out of control? In other words, to try to, get it before it gets to that point. Second question is, how is the city addressing, at this point, I've known we've had issues the past couple of weeks with protests, and all of Downey Avenue was practically boarded up. Is there a point in time where the city will come in either with code enforcement or some other, avenue to address, everybody to start, all right, let's get back to business, start conforming, signs down, plywood down. I know several businesses still have them up, and it looks horrendous. So those two questions, I don't know if we have an answer for.
Sure, thanks, Commissioner Spathos. In regards to the first question, code enforcement has been out and has noticed pop-up businesses. The ones that we've noticed the most are people selling masks and other related items. And so we visited those businesses. Code enforcement can flex their hours beyond 5 p.m. and on the weekends. So we will take note of this site and we'll go out there after hours to address it. And we do so as we receive complaints. Code enforcement also does tend to work on Saturdays as well, mostly to try to manage our yard sales and any other illicit activity that's occurring on Saturdays and or the weekends. So thank you for that information, and we'll go out and monitor that site. In regards to the second question, that one is a real sensitive balancing act. Just based on what's happening in our world, it's something that that we're going to monitor on a daily basis. There's rumors of a future protest on Sunday, June 28th, and so if I was a business, I might be a little hesitant to take down that wood before I put it back up. So, and that once again is a business by business approach. And so, as I mentioned, we monitor that on a daily, if not hourly basis in terms of how our community's feeling and the direction that we want to go in, because we do agree with you. We want to get to a point that we're back to normal. We don't have all the banners up. We don't have all the different alternative means of getting people back into businesses. And it's a topic that we wrestle with and deal with and discuss on a daily basis at the executive staff level all the way down to the entry staff level. So we're going to continue to monitor that and once again, hope to facilitate any type of support that the businesses need so that we can get them back to normal.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Fermetta?
I just received one communication from a resident in regards to permits. But I told him that's not on my side, but I'm just sharing this information that things seems a little bit slow. I would understand under the situations, but I'm just relaying that information.
Sure, and you know what? And you folks are out in the community, and as planning commissioners, people are going to ask you questions and or make requests. Pass them on to me. All we need is an address and what an issue is, and we'll do our best to address that as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have just two things. One, I think was kind of mentioned today, the streeteries, and specifically downtown, the downtown Downey area. Were we looking to maybe enclose the street at a certain hour to extend that out? I think there's been talk of that in the past. So that's one of my questions.
Sure, if I can address that one. Our downtown has a property owner association, and they've taken up the name, the District at Downey. And the district has discussed that amongst themselves, being the entity that drive and organize that. And what they're struggling with is the amount of volume and how many restaurants actually we have downtown and in what area. So as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the parklets, the most natural area to close off that's been discussed is on Downey Avenue between 2nd and 3rd. And right now you have maybe 3.5 restaurants, that are there. And so you start to think about, okay, well, if you close off the street, how much more room do 3.5 restaurants need? Do they need an entire street? What other types of uses are going to spill out into that area? And so They're looking to consider more organized types of activities if and when the streets get closed off. You know, does it turn into a craft fair, an arts fair, you know, a wine tasting, something that really needs a theme and much more organization. We've conveyed to them on numerous times that we're open to that, and if they want to proceed in that direction, once again, we're open to discussing the logistics behind that as well.
Okay, thank you. And then one last thing that was actually brought to my attention today was, I guess there was a flyer, I don't know, social media or not, to stated that there was several of the restaurant bars in Downey that had positive COVID, I guess, tests, but turned out to be fake. And I saw the flyer, and it, you know, looked like, you know, the city of Downey. So I just wanted to ask about that in terms of, you know, what's being done in terms of that issue.
Sure, that was brought to our attention at midday by our mayor, and hats off to whoever cut and pasted and photoshopped our logos, because it did look pretty authentic. It was not a communication that came out from the city, and we let the mayor know and as many people as possible know about that. I believe the city attorney in the past has addressed people in a very stern fashion, if I may say, in terms of our copyright and plagiarism and photoshopping our image and or our logos. Not to say it's not going to happen in the future, but that was a phony document that was circulated.
There's the Downey Municipal Code that protects use of the city seal, our D, the branding D, and all the law enforcement patches, fire, police, Discover Downey, all of those are all printed in the Downey Municipal Code and under a municipal code section that says you can't use any of these unless you get the city manager's prior written consent. So typically he will not give consent if it's on a campaign flyer, and we have addressed those issues. And anytime it pops up on Instagram, Facebook, and social media, we send a cease and desist to the manager of the site where you can send complaints. We will send it there. And any other methods we can get in touch with whoever owns the site. And if it's something in writing, we try to locate who's putting it out and send a cease and desist. So this is a kind of a constant thing, and so if you see anything, please let us know, because that's what we usually do. I usually will send something to, you know, ask them to stop and take it down.
And in this particular case, that you knew who put it out there? Something was sent to them? Do you know who actually put it out there?
I don't, and this is actually the first that I actually addressed something on social media fairly recently. I'm not sure if this is the same thing or the same communication, but after I will follow up with Aldo and track it down, and we'll proceed that way.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
The City of Downey Facebook page just put something out that it was a false post and it wasn't from the City of Downey. Who is in charge of our social media page? Like, who do we communicate with if we see something? Is it, you know, the city manager? Who's the guy in charge of the social media Downey page? Because there was something put out earlier today that it was a fake.
Sure. Our public information officer, Judy Montenegro, is in charge of social media, but don't hesitate to reach out to me, because once again, she's only a text or email away. And so if you have any issue, and I'll throw this out there, just in general, in terms of what you're seeing, what's happening in our community, I can connect you to whatever department oversees that if it's not my department.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I will. This meeting is adjourned at 7:30.